Hello, my name is Anna Henriquez, and today I'm going to present an overview of infant botulism. So there are 5 different types of botulism. Foodborne botulism, which is the one you most commonly think about when you think of botulism. Wound botulism, adult infectious botulism, which is often associated with nosocomial infections of adults who have had GI surgery. Inadvertent botulism, which is often an overdose of Botox or pharmaceutical botulinum toxin. And then there's also infant botulism. So that is actually the most common form of botulism reported in the U.S. since at least 2001, when the Council for State and Territorial Epidemiologists began tracking botulism. So Clostridium botulinum is the most common infectious agent. However, there are other species of Clostridium that do secrete these toxins, which cause botulism. Clostridium botulinum is a gram-positive endospore-forming rod-shaped bacteria. It persists in soils and marine sediments, so it's often found in the GI tracts of birds and other marine animals. It's a neurotoxin that causes a symmetrical descending flaccid paralysis that affects the nervous system. And it actually secretes all 8 types of botulinal neurotoxin. However, the types that are most prevalent in infants are types A, B, and very rarely E and F. So we'll be focusing on those. Infant botulism was actually first described in 1976, and it was first thought to be caused only by botulinal toxins A and B. However, in the late 1970s, toxin F was isolated from Clostridium baratzii in a fecal sample of one of the infants who was diagnosed with infant botulism. So we know that it's not just toxins A and B. However, though these types of toxins are different, they actually function very similarly. So we'll be discussing that mechanistic pathway later on. However, type B, it's important to note, is most commonly found in honey fed to infants who develop botulism. So if you were ever told to don't give honey to infants, it is because these spores will actually germinate within honey, and then when the infant ingests the honey, it'll colonize. The bacteria and spores will colonize within their GI tracts and secrete the toxins. So some signs to watch for in infant botulism is constipation, weak crying, slowed movement of pupils due to that attack on the nervous system, impaired respiration, muscle hypotonia. Again, you see this picture, there's a loss of motor control due to the attack on the nervous system. And in a normal infant, you would see some flexing at the joints. Here in this image, you see that the child lies limp. So that is one indication of botulism in infants. Flaccid paralysis is the key indicator, and oftentimes we'll see bulbar palsies, which is disablement of the cranial nerves due to lesions on the lower motor nerves just within or just below the brainstem. So some facts about pathogenicity. Again, this is an endospore-forming bacteria, so the spores will germinate and live in those conditions in which the bacteria itself cannot survive. The Clostridium botulinum is actually an anaerobic bacteria, so it does well and thrives in those home-canned foods or in honey, where there's not a lot of oxygen content. And these spores will survive the child's immune response simply because the child has not yet developed a full adaptive immune response within that first year to be able to combat this type of pathogen. And so the vegetative cells will actually start producing the toxin, which will directly attack the peripheral nerves of the infant. So the mechanistic pathway basically of this toxin. So it attacks the neuromuscular junctions. So it inhibits the transmission signal acetylcholine from being exocytosed from the motor neuron across the synapse to the receptors on the myosin filaments on the muscle tissue. And so the toxin itself will actually proteolyze 3 of the proteins involved in this pathway. First, the vesicle-associated membrane protein VAMP. So that has to do with the vesicle in which the acetylcholinergic vesicle in which the transmission signal is contained, and it also attacks the SNAP25 and syntaxin, which are 2 other really important proteins in this pathway. So here in this image, you can see the normal functioning of a motor neuron in which the acetylcholine is exocytosed and is received onto the receptors on the myosin filaments, and then conversely, in the case where the toxin is endocytosed into the motor neuron, the light chain connected to the zinc-associated complex is cleaved and then prevents that exocytosis of acetylcholine, which causes paralysis. Some leading causes, we're not really sure how to prevent infant botulism because of the ubiquity of the pathogen. Soil is a primary reservoir, so there's lots of environmental exposure for most infants, which makes it very difficult to prevent this disease. However, some preventable sources are herbal remedies, often used in Argentina and other countries that rely on more traditional methods of healthcare, as opposed to the highly technical methods used in the U.S. And honey is actually the only avoidable cause known that has direct correlation to infant botulism that is listed by the CDC. So some treatment, infants often have to be hospitalized and admitted to the ICU and or put on mechanical respirators, again, because they have lost their motor capabilities. Baby Big is the botulism immune globulin intravenous human-derived antitoxin that is used in the U.S. However, it's far too expensive to be used in most developing countries, so the equine-derived toxin, botulism antitoxin, EQBA, was developed first in Argentina and has actually had great success. So despite initial concerns regarding some possible resistance later on to equine antitoxin, this is still an effective treatment and is used in different developing countries. So some occurrence, we have seen at least one case in 26 countries, which is rather surprising considering the ubiquity of this pathogen in the soil. However, this could just be due to awareness. Again, we had not described this disease until the mid to late 70s, so it has not really been reported in a lot of cases. However, the highest number of cases have been reported in the US, Argentina, Australia, Canada, Italy, and Japan, again, possibly due to awareness or possibly to a difference in soil that has yet to be investigated. And again, there have been sporadic cases. Consistently, there have been increased reports. However, most of these do not ever go above the level that we would expect. Often, in the U.S. at least, we expect at least 2 cases of infant botulism for every 100,000 live births. Every once in a while, we will see an outbreak, as in the Staten Island case where there was construction going on in the area. The spores were kicked up into the air, the infants inhaled it, and the spores colonized and secreted the toxin in the gastrointestinal tracts of those 4 infants. However, we do not often see such outbreaks. However, it is fairly prevalent and, again, is the most common form of botulism in the U.S. So here's my bibliography, and